Hello, everyone. My name is Cheree Tham, and I'm the co-founder and vice president of programs and initiatives at America's Warrior Partnership. Thank you for joining us today for our discussion around veteran suicide and self-injury mortality prevention. We're currently overseeing Operation Deep Dive, a community-based study examining suicide and self-injury mortality death among the former service member population. It is led by our team at America's Warrior Partnership and researchers from the University of Alabama with the generous support from the Bristol Myers Squibb Foundation. Today, our goal is to share with you the best practices and resources available to support prevention efforts around suicide and self-injury mortality for those who have served in the military and reside in Maine. I'm pleased to have Deaconess Kim Slininger, Principal and Executive Director at Spirit Warriors in rural Maine. Please join us today for this conversation. Kim, would you mind telling our viewers a little bit about yourself?
Thank you, Cheree. I'm honored to join you today to discuss veteran suicide and self-injury mortality prevention. I am the founder and CEO of Spirit Warrior L3C, and we provide the warrior a place of healing by facilitating the relationship between the horse and the warrior through the use of groundwork, diaconal care, community, and nature. In this way, they begin to develop new relationships in a safe and natural environment and can move forward on the path to healing.
I can't tell you how excited I am for you to share the great work that you're doing in Maine and how we can work together as communities to develop an upstream approach to suicide and self-injury mortality. As we discuss Operation Deep Dive and the local suicide prevention efforts, I encourage our viewers to type out any questions in the comment section. We will answer as many as we can live, and any we can't get to today will be addressed directly in the comments. Before we begin, Kim, can you share with our viewers what the veteran population looks like in Maine?
Absolutely. According to the Predictive Analytics Services from the Department of Veterans Affairs for 2020, there are 109,567 veterans living in the state of Maine. And we have an aging population of veterans, with the oldest group of veterans being in the age of 70 to 74. And we have 17,596 veterans in that age range. The second largest group of veterans are at the age of 60 to 64, and there's 11,711 veterans in that age group. This is important because according to suicide data, this group is the largest group at risk for suicide. And so we have for the 60 to 64 group, we have a 24.5% rate of suicide. And the state of Maine overall has a 31% rate of suicide, whereas the national average is only 18%.
Yeah, wow. And you spoke to that when you're talking about the per capita of the population over the age of, I think you said 60,
yeah.
Yeah.
64.
Yeah. Wow. Well, when we spoke earlier, you had a great story related to your passion to do the work that you're doing through Spirit Warriors, and how important it is to you to improve the quality of life for the veterans in Maine. Would you please share with our viewers a little bit about the story and what brought you to doing the work that you're doing?
I am a disabled veteran, and I lived with undiagnosed PTSD for almost 40 years before I was diagnosed. And once I entered into therapy, I began to find that there was an aspect of healing that was missing. And so that was the aspect that I'm hoping to bring to the community through Spirit Warrior. A few years ago, as Deaconess for Hope Lutheran Church here in Bangor, I hosted a program through the VA to help rural clergy learn how to better assist veterans who may come in for help. We learned that the first place a veteran will look for help is within their faith community, but many clergy members didn't know what to do once they did come in for help. So Spirit Warrior started as a way to be that first contact that a veteran might make in their community when they begin to feel stressed. And Spirit Warrior has started working with Paladine Equine Assisted Services, which offers occupational therapy, and Ebenezer Farm Fitness, which also offers physical training. And we also have a palliative care approach to healing, in which we work with their primary care physician, their mental health care provision, diaconal care. We work within the community, and we also work with the OT and the PT as well. We recognize that any veteran suffering from trauma will probably arrive at our site experiencing some anxiety. This is a whole new concept for them. And so we start with small talk while observing the herd, and then we introduce everyone to the horses. And we teach a new way to greet the horses, which would be how a horse would greet another herd member. And then we teach how to halter and lead the horse. And we always try to start in the pasture so that the guests can lead their horse that chose them. They can go from the pasture to the barn. And once in the barn, we begin with basic grooming. And we ask them to be looking out for cuts and bruises or any injuries that the horse might have gained while playing pasture games. And this requires that the veterans stay present because they're looking for any injuries that might be on the horse. And we are never on a time schedule. Nor do we have a specific plan in place. We allow the guests and the horses to set the day and what needs to be done. And we allow the guests to determine the level of care that they need. Sometimes they just need to groom a horse or sit and hug one of the barn cats. And we've had time a couple of weeks ago where we were working with a couple of horses, and they were really quite anxious, and we weren't really quite sure what was going on. So we started analyzing what could be causing the anxiety. And we finally came to the understanding that they were anxious because they hadn't been fed yet. So they got fed. And in so doing, we kind of lost what our original plan was for the day, but we realized that this was more important. And we hope that we're teaching a new way to react to circumstances, and that it's not reactionary, but that you're responding to a need and putting some thought behind that process. And they got their hay, so they were kind of happy.
No, I think that's great. I mean, agile around what's going on with the horse as well as what's going on with the individual. And, when we're working with individuals, you can't be about, okay, here's my schedule, here's what the plan is, because you're gauging where they are and the environment that's around them. And I think that's phenomenal. Just a question, if you could briefly, what is the benefit of the brushing to getting to know the horses, if the horse has any bruises or scrapes or anything? How does that build into it?
The process of just grooming becomes very soothing to the guest, and it starts to develop that level of empathy. I'm taking care of this horse. I am grooming this horse. I'm looking for bruises. Is the horse okay? And so we're developing a level of care between the horse and the guest and developing this relationship. There's nothing better than seeing a guest arrive and the horse out in the pasture come running up to the gate, because the horse now trusts this veteran to take care of them. Yeah. And maybe they also understand that there's a treat involved as well. But this grooming just kind of calms everybody down.
Okay.
And we just can have this discussion about care and feeding of the animal and of self, or whatever questions pop into mind.
And if I'm a veteran in Maine and I'm interested in the work with Spirit Warriors and engaging in your program, do I have to live in a certain location, or how do I go about talking with you about the opportunity for me to experience the program?
Certainly reach out to us at kim@spiritwarrior.me. You don't have to live in a particular area. Do understand that we live in rural Maine. So usually if you're going anywhere, you have to travel a distance. So we have 2 facilities currently. We have one in Heartland and one in Corinna that we use. And then we're hoping to have another facility sometime in the next couple of years in Hamden, so that a person can stay within their very own community and receive this care without having to travel further than necessary.
Makes sense. Okay, thank you. As our regular viewers know, every veterans community is unique and distinct depending on where they are located in the country. As you've just heard Kim discuss about the population that is in Maine of an older population, but she's also talking about services within a rural population. And I know a lot of us as service providers have seen differences in the support levels between what we can provide in rural communities and urban and metropolitan areas. So I think it's very important to be understanding that population, and also within the context of the rural community. Because of this, challenges impact veterans in one state or one community may be vastly different from another. You guys, our viewers, have heard me say, one size fits one. That's exactly what the example that Kim was talking about with the veteran and their first introduction to the horse, and the scenario around the anxiety of the horse related to having been fed, at that point. Our goal with Operation Deep Dive is to understand these challenges, but more importantly, how the community can address them, and how the leaders of that community can be a part of the solution. With that goal in mind, Kim, would you mind telling us more about Operation Deep Dive in Maine?
Operation Deep Dive consists of 2 components. The first component focuses on gathering death data from 2014 through 2018 to provide to the DoD, who then verifies the decedents who were former service members. Research team is in the early stages of analyzing data that they received from Maine in 2021. The second component includes conducting interviews with the relatives, loved ones, friends, or colleagues of veterans whose life was taken by suicide or due to self-injury. Collectively, the data from both components will be analyzed and used to create more effective and important support programs for veterans.
Kim, tell me, how can our viewers in Maine get involved with Operation Deep Dive and become a part of the larger team that is focusing on ending veteran suicide?
First and foremost, if you have lost a loved one to suicide or self-injury within the last 24 months, I encourage you to consider participating in an interview. We want to understand their story and how they were engaged with their community prior to their death. If you are not eligible for an interview, please consider sharing information about Operation Deep Dive on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or informing people you know by word of mouth or email. In addition to Operation Deep Dive, veterans should also know there's a wide range of programs and services available to help them overcome a challenge. If you're facing an urgent crisis, you should always call the Veteran Crisis Line by dialing 1-800-273-8255 and pressing 1. You can also send a text message to 838-2555. And for more information on how Spirit Warriors can support veterans in rural Maine and surrounding areas, please contact me at kim@spiritwarrior.me, Maine. ME.
Thank you. For the viewers who may be wondering what they can do specifically today to get involved in veteran suicide prevention, is there a way that they can leverage the local and national organizations' resources?
Sure. If you're affiliated with a particular community organization, don't assume everyone knows about your organization's resources. One mention of local and national resources during a collaborative meeting could help someone searching for assistance find the right resource.
Yeah. Yeah, it takes all of us, doesn't it, working together, excuse me, in our veteran communities.
Sure.
So even if you believe you or your organization has a small following, there's likely there's a veteran, family member, or caregiver in your network who would benefit from this information. Kim, is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Thank you. I would like to add, there are so many organizations that exist to help veterans. Become an advocate for your own health and reach out. As was mentioned earlier, what works for one person may not work for another person. So keep reaching out until you find that match. And it might change over time. You might have to find another resource, and that's fine. That's not a setback. That's just you changing for the better. And just keep advocating for yourself and then start advocating for others.
Yeah, and it sounds like it's great to hear, organizations like yourself can help navigate, all of those different programs. It can be a huge support in addition to, the work that is being done therapeutically with the equestrian therapy. I'd like to clarify, because, a couple of times through here, our audience has heard us say veterans, they've heard us say former service members, they've heard us say warriors. I think it's important for me to share with you guys why we use the term warrior, former service member, and veteran interchangeably in the context of Operation Deep Dive. To ensure it is clear who is eligible to participate in the interviews that Kim discussed earlier. If your friend or loved one was sworn into the service for one day, they qualify as a former service member for the purposes of our study. It does not matter which branch they served in or whether they completed a combat deployment. The goal of these interviews is to understand how a deceased veteran, former service member, warrior was engaged within their community and how the community can better support veterans in the future. So how can you participate? You must be 18 years or older. You must have a relative, a loved one, friend, or coworker who was a veteran and died by suicide or self-injury within the last 24 months. The deceased former service member could have served as little as one day and received any type of discharge. If you are eligible and would like to participate or know someone who may want to participate, please visit americaswarriorpartnership.org/deep dive to contact our research team. Also want to clarify a little bit about, you've heard self-injury mortality, you've heard self-injury around Operation Deep Dive. We're looking at Operation Deep Dive is veteran suicide study. However, the self-injury piece is, it did not have to be documented as suicide on the death certificate. It could have been documented from what we're calling self-injury mortality. And those are overdose, accidental gun infliction, death by law enforcement, asphyxiation, strangulation, drowning, and single driving high-speed car accident. So I want to thank you all for joining our discussion today. It has been a pleasure to be with you, Kim, as well as our audience. And everyone, please stay tuned to America's Warrior Partnership Facebook page for information on future Operation Deep Dive discussions and updates. And again, for more information on Operation Deep Dive, please visit americaswarriorpartnership.org/deep-dive. Thank you so much for your time today, Kim, and thank you, viewers, for being a part of our program.
Thank you, Cheree.